Hey everybody. I was looking around online for the Runemage spells, and I found I couldn't really find a consolidated source, so I figured I'd make a quick video showcasing all of the spells that I think are in the game. I might be missing some. If you're impatient like me, just look down in the description and you'll see a list with all the timestamps to all the spells I do in this video. So let's start with Fireball 1. Super easy spell. It's just a Sharp H. You can get away with a rounded H. It's a pretty forgiving spell, I've found. Um, Although I don't really use it. I think Fireball 2 is just as easy and more effective. And Fireball 2 is a Sharp B. You can get away with a rounded B and usually, yeah, get a perfect cast on a rounded B. So a lot of people do that. However, I recommend sticking with the Sharp B because Fireball 3 requires a Sharp B. I have not been able to get a rounded B to work for the level 3 Fireball spell. And that spell is this. It's a Sharp B with circles on either side, and then a line passing through the circles and around the back. It's kind of finicky. Sometimes I'm really good at it. Sometimes it takes a bunch of tries. There you go. Some people say they can get a perfect cast doing a rounded B, two big circles, and connecting the outsides. And I have never been able to get that to work. That's what I was trying when I first learned it for hours and hours, and I was quite frustrated. So now I just do the Sharp Bs. The O's, I look at these middle points here as kind of my 12 o'clock and my 6 o'clock, roughly. And then I pass a line through them and behind. All right, let's move on to Affliction. Affliction is a damage over time spell. So basically, if you hit someone far off, they'll be taking damage the whole time they're coming towards you, which is obviously very useful. So Affliction is kind of this guy here. I found for me it's easiest to just start from the bottom left and end on the bottom right. I've seen people say you got to do it this way, which is certainly helpful to keep it symmetrical. I'm just, stuck in my own ways, I guess. I'm not as good at that as I am at this. Affliction 2 starts off the same. So you've got this general spell, and then you're going to put a box around the bottom and a circle in the top. Kind of looks like an open envelope with a little circle in there. Again, it's just an amplified effect, just like the Fireball ones. So they'll just be taking more damage over time as they come to you. In a pinch, I don't use that. I use just regular Affliction, just because it's so much faster. All right, we've got Mana Shield here, which is this with a diamond in the middle. I think it's one of the most forgiving spells in the game. You can just do this and put a circle in the middle. You almost always get a perfect cast too when you do the circle. So there's no reason really to do it like that. Just quick and easy. Okay, moving on to the Arcane Ray. People have a lot of trouble with this, and admittedly I do too. And I also don't use it that much because I found it doesn't really do enough damage for me to take all the time to write it out. But as you can see, it does affect multiple targets. Anyone in the blast gets hit, so I guess in that regard it's useful, but I'm a level 6 now, and it does 20 damage or something each time. It's really not that helpful for me. But here it is anyway. I like to think of it as a 91, only when you finish your 9, you just bring it all the way over. That's kind of it. You can point it at things. They take damage while they're moving through it, coming towards you. But again, I don't think it does enough damage for the effort. Building off of that, there's Arcane Blast, I think it's called. I haven't found the rune, so I don't know the name of it. But it looks like this. Start off the same, then you just put a V down here. The only problem is, if you mess it up, you get Arcane Ray again. So I usually just sheath my weapon and bring it back out to undo the Arcane Ray. I think the V needs to be touching the middle lines right about here. That one is a blast attack. It also affects multiple targets, and I don't know. I use that occasionally. If there's a bunch of guys, I'll use it, but I don't really ever use Arcane Ray. Okay, so Frostbolt. Frostbolt looks like an M, kind of a wide-bodied M. This, just like Firebolt, I don't use the level 1 because I think the level 2 is just as easy and it's more effective. The level 2 is like an F, but the arms of the F are slanted down. And if you can't get the F, a lot of people do a P and seem to get that to work. I have not been able to get that to work. I usually just stick with the F, although now I am having considerable trouble with it. There it is. So if you do the P and you get that to work, some people do a sharp P and they said it works. See, I'm not able to. Anyway, if you do the P, that's great. If it's quick and easy for you, that's awesome. But you can't use the P for the level 3 Frostbolt. So I recommend you just practice on your Fs. Okay, so Frostbolt 3. I really struggle with this one. When I start to get it, I can continue to reproduce it usually, but it takes a lot of practice for me. Anyway, you want to start with your Frostbolt 2, and make sure you're doing this right, because if you're not doing it right, like I'm not right now, then there's no reason to move on to the level 3 stuff. Anyway, the gist of it is, you make your level 2, and then you need a straight line, I'll use my wand here, kind of like that, coming from basically your eye through this intersection down. I usually do the F and then I just stand onto the side and bring it through, but it's a tricky one. Some people say they just turn their hand and do it. I have yet to get that to work for me. Also a good tip, if you find yourself struggling with level 3 stuff, make sure you're doing the level 2 stuff right, otherwise you're just wasting your time. So if I get stuck on something, I'll go redo this a couple times. Same with the level 3. If you find it's not working for you, make sure your Bs are right, because if your B's like that, you're wasting your time drawing all this when you need to be practicing your Bs in the first place. There we go. Only took me like 30 tries. This one just takes a lot of fine tuning. I probably won't be able to reproduce it for a couple of tries. Yeah. But make sure you're doing your level 2s right. And something that you need to keep in mind is this is a 3D game. So if your F is like that, you're not going to work. So I like to keep my arm kind of not hyper extended, but I definitely reach it out. Make sure I can get my shapes right. If you get lazy, like with the Bs, you'll see that actually worked out really well. If you get lazy with the Bs, you'll see that they kind of take on a different shape. That was still pretty forgiving. But with the level 3s, you're going to want to make sure these are basically perfect. Okay, moving on to some of the other spells. A really useful spell that I use, or try to use as much as I can, is the Pushback spell. If a monster's coming at me and I'm pulling aggro and I've got a guy with a shield right there, I'm weak, he's strong, I need to get him away from me, let that guy take aggro. So the Pushback is basically a 3 with a sharp top. And of course, I can't quite get it right now. There we go. So you hit someone with that, they go back maybe 6 or 7 feet. Something that's helped me with this is to try to make sure that this comes, about the same distance that is away. Boom, and then round it. I highly recommend you practice this one a lot because if you can do it quick, you can save your life with it, not have to go back to the graveyard if you can get someone else to pull aggro. There is a level 2 version of this, and I have yet to pull it off, but you start with your 3, and then you make a ring around it. And how I've seen it work is that it doesn't shoot a projectile like this one. Instead, it's just sitting on your wand, and when you use it, it just blows up and sends a bunch of targets flying away from you. It's hard. Be warned if you're trying to learn it. It's a tricky one. I haven't seen the rune anywhere online or in the game, so yeah, best of luck if you're going to try to learn that. Another good offensive spell is the Ice Lance, which is basically, if you imagine, just kind of a flattened arrow with a long spine. However, I can't really get it to work like this. There we go. I've found I'm more consistent if I do the left side down and then do the right side. And Ice Lance is okay. It affects targets in a straight line, but if you use the Frostbolt first, and while they're affected by it, you'll see they're affected because under their health bar will be a little indicator. If they're affected by the Frostbolt and you hit them with the Ice Lance, it does like a critical damage spell. A common attack I use with other rune mages is someone will queue up a Frostbolt, and someone will queue up an Incursion, and someone will queue up a Fireball. And we'll launch all 3 of those at once, and then while they're hit, they're going to be slow moving because you hit them with the Frostbolt. Everyone has time to get a spear ready, and then if you all hit them with the spear, basically they're dead before they even get to you. Okay, so there is a couple more spells. There's this Cantrip, which is basically an orb of light. You can see it lights up the room, and you can launch it. It'll stick to stuff and hang out. The lighting system in the game, since it's alpha, isn't really great, so the ball doesn't really do much. Nighttime is still light. But I assume in the future, nighttime will be probably a little darker. The spell will have use. But that's it. It's kind of that shape. There we go. And it doesn't fly far until it stops, and then it just lives there for, I don't know, 30 seconds. So that's that one. There's the Polymorph spell, which I have a lot of trouble with. It's basically an H, but the middle of the H is a long X. Oh, there we go. When you hit someone with that, it turns them into a chicken or a sheep. You should be warned, though, that if you then try to attack the sheep, it'll just turn back into the monster. So it doesn't like pacify them for a long period of time and let you get in a bunch of attacks. It just makes them not a target, so you can focus on something else for a little bit, and then they'll turn back into themselves and come attack you. Again, I probably can't recreate it since I'm really bad at it, but it's an H, a long X in the middle. Someone has said they've been able to do a sideways hourglass and have had good success with it. I have not. So anyway, there's that. Let's see here. There's a Dispel Runemage attack. I guess it's not really an attack. It gets rid of harmful effects. So if someone's poisoned, you can hit them with it. It's basically just a Sigma. Pretty easy to do. I have yet to come across some harmful effect that's so drastic that someone needs saving, but if they do, there you go. Let's see what else. Okay, the Firework spell. People have a lot of trouble with this, and it's not too terrible. You draw a line here, kind of come down at like a 45-degree angle, and another line. And then about the middle of this line, cross over and draw a line down. And when you launch it, shoots off a little firework. It doesn't do any damage. It's just, I think they added it for New Year's just for fun. It's a cute little spell. People do it sometimes to celebrate things or whatever. Yeah, there's that. All right, let's focus on the Resurrection Ritual. Rituals are a 3-rune spell. You need to start off with one, then follow it with another, then another. They can be pretty tricky, but if you learn them, they're not awful. The Resurrection spell is a pretty good one. It will resurrect any dead person near you. So if you're doing a dungeon or something, that can be immensely valuable. They do require you to use what's called a Runemage reagent. And they look like that. It destroys them when you use it, so I have mine out of my inventory just so I can show you guys how to do them without wasting them. You start with a line and then you do your Dispel symbol. And this is blue, not yellow, so hopefully somebody can help me explain why, but yeah, it doesn't work when it's blue for some reason. I think it means I did it poorly, but I don't know what the blue's even for. So anyway, there we go. Yellow's the color you want. Then you're going to follow it up with this 3-sided box. You're going to come out here, come up diagonally. I'll review these all again in a second so you don't miss them. But then you're going to do the incursion with a little A and a theta. And I didn't do it quick enough. You see that went away. But let's go over it one more time. A little sigma in the middle. Man, I cannot seem to get it right now. There we go. And then it says Runemage reagent required. So if I had one, it would have resurrected people. I found that once you get this part in, the rest of it's generally pretty forgiving. And again, those other 2 parts look like this. Kind of a box there with a little triangle. Come out it this way, and then you go all the way up to the top left. I'll go do that one more time. Sorry, top right, not top left. You start at the bottom left and go to the top right. Again, once you've got the first part going, it's generally a forgiving cast. That probably wouldn't pass. But that's good enough. Once you've got that, you'll see the ritual starts to build up a little bit, and then you'll add the last bit, which is Affliction, and then up here you put in lowercase a, and here you put a little theta. All right, and for the teleportation ones, I have to admit, I don't know. There's individual runes for all the destinations, and there's a way it works, like your starting rune and then your ending rune or something. But to start the ritual, you could do this little line here, and then a backwards N. Again, that was blue, not yellow, so I think it was insufficient, but that's kind of the gist. I've seen, all right, let's try again. The only one I know is to the home world, which is a diamond and then kind of a sharp Y. So let's do that again. So this uses the Runemage reagent to open a portal home, but there's a bunch of different runes to do different things. And so I don't know what those are. When I find them, I'll update, my YouTube channel. I'd like to also add that the game is in alpha, maybe beta. It's early access. So all of these spells are probably liable to be changed at some point. And if that's the case, I'll do my best to update it. So you can check this channel out to have some sort of consistent reference for Runemage spells. There really isn't a lot online right now. I know this video wasn't the greatest quality. My microphone's a little rough, but I figured it'd be nice to have all of the spells consolidated in one video, and you can just scroll through and see what you need to know. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, shoot me a message. I am very much still learning, and if there's any corrections I need to make, please let me know. I just haven't seen anyone make a video like this, so I figured I would give it a go. Anyway, thanks guys. Have a good one.